Hi folks, how you all doing? Cross the 6 here. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, evening, wherever you are in the world. What do you think of that intro? I'm going to do away with it very soon. You can only take so much of yourself laughing, isn't there? Really, and when you hear it yourself, you don't realise how it actually sounds. But I'll use it for another couple of videos, and then I'll get rid of it, and I'll come up with another plan B, shall we say. But anyway, without further ado, let's get on with today's gameplay. We're in the Bretagne Panther, which is the tier 6 French medium tank. There's an interesting backstory to this tank. I've done a little bit of research on it, which I'll bring to you in just a minute. But before we go any further, if you're new to the channel, then welcome. I really hope you enjoy my content and it puts a wee smile on your face and whiles away a few minutes of your time throughout the day. But please share and like this video. It would really help me out heaps. So go on, do it now. As somebody famous once said. What was he say? Get to the chopper. Anyway, my Al Schwarzenegger is not good either. It's about as good as my Russian accent. And being able to talk the Russian lingo is non-existent. But anyway, without further ado, let's get on with it and stop me banging on and on and on. So, the Bretagne Panther. What's that all about then? What's that all about, son? Well, it's a tier 6 medium premium tank, as I said, from France, which apparently was captured during World War II, allegedly. It's got the 7.5cm KWK 42L70 cannon on it, with 150mm with standard round penetration, 194 with the preemies, funny that, isn't it? And 38 with high explosives, and the damage output respectively is 135, 135 and 175. Rate of fire is about 14.29 rounds per minute with 0.35 dispersion accuracy. Aim time 2.3 seconds. What's this tank like is really what you're interested in, isn't it? My first couple of games I played in this, I was a bit unsure. I thought, I don't know, I'm not so sure about this. But actually, it's grown on me. It really is growing on me. And I quite enjoy playing it now. And this game here that we're playing on Redshire, turned out to be one of my better games in this tank, shall we say. But anyway, before we get into all of that, whilst we watch the gameplay in the background, I'm going to give you a little bit of background to this tank. Wargaming promoted this tank way back in 2019, believe it or not. And this actual tank itself, albeit yes, it did exist in World War II, and there was a couple of Panthers that were actually captured, A and G, of this particular type of Panther. The actual Bretagne was a Tiger tank, believe it or not. It wasn't actually the Panther, albeit it had been named as the Bretagne, but this was later on that they took the name from the Tiger tank and applied it to the Panther. And this guy Bezier, yes, he did exist, and yes, they did do raids and all this kind of stuff, so all that's true, but the backstory to this that Wargaming put out there was the fact that there was like nighttime raids, and it was all you know, hush hush and sneaky beaky and freaky deaky and all this kind of stuff, and I'm sure it was at the time, but it wasn't quite how Wargaming described it. But they flowered it up a bit. In all fairness, kudos to them. They were doing it where some of the proceeds were going to the local museum to try and help for the restoration of the Panther. So you can't knock them for that. They're a business at the end of the day, and they are actually helping for restoration of World War II vehicles. So do you know what, Wargaming? Kudos to you. Kudos to you. But it's really interesting, because when you start to look into the history of the different vehicles within World War II that happen to be in the game, and you do look at the backstories from the information that you can actually find online, it's really interesting. But the actual Panther was the Samur Panther. That's what it was originally known as, not the notorious Bretagne. And what's known about it is the fact that effectively Wargaming had kind of resorted to a made-up origin story, but it's to promote the restoration of tanks. So, and at the end of the day, look, it's a video game, isn't it? And it's just there for fun. Do we really give a monkeys? Not really. Historically, there's lots of things out there that have kind of taken place that will probably never ever be mentioned again. And if they are ever in movies, you know, they're flowered up to no ends, aren't they? So Wargaming's a little bit guilty of flowering this story up about the Bretagne Panther, because it wasn't actually called the Bretagne Panther. It was a Tiger. The Tiger tank was called the Bretagne, the one that was captured. But later on, the name was taken from the Tiger, and it was given to a Panther. So I guess that's where they're getting that from. But the backstory of all the night raids and all that, some of it was kind of true, some of it not quite how Wargaming described it. But you can forgive them for that, can't you, I guess? But you know, the interesting thing is there was Panthers in service with the French army during World War II, the ones that were captured anyway. But the problem is as soon as the ARL-44 was introduced, the remaining Panthers that the French army had effectively took them and started using them as target practice out on the range, which is a shame really, but I guess at the time they probably weren't even thinking about that. They were, you know, just the military doing the military thing, and why not use it as target practice for training and all this kind of stuff, which strangely enough this guy Bezier and his supposed men went off to start training tank commanders and tank crews effectively. So, you know, Wargaming can be forgiven for flowering the story up. They were trying to sell as many of these as they possibly can, because the proceeds, a lot of the proceeds from this were going to help restore and, you know, help for restoration of World War II vehicles and all this kind of stuff. So I don't have an issue with it. It makes it a little bit more exciting, doesn't it? I'm sure there are some people out there that are tank buffs and probably argue the toss and say, well, it's not right, you know, they shouldn't be really doing that, it's a bit naughty for them to say it was involved in this, that and the next thing, when actually it wasn't. You know, we've got to keep it historically right and all that. I'll give over, you got the Waffenträger Auf E100, you know, that it was just sort of dreamt up. So it's a video game at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Just, do you have fun in this tank? And if so, is it worth it? Yes, it's worth the money buying it. As I said, when I first got this tank, and I played a few games in it now, I was on the fence, and I was kind of thinking to myself, well, I don't know whether this is a decent tank or not. Bear in mind, it's only a tier 6, so it's not going to be one of these huge credit makers, and it's not going to do huge amounts of damage, blah blah blah. But it's actually quite a fun tank, and I tried running in and seeing how the armour would hold up, and it doesn't. funny that, isn't it? Strange that. And then you kind of sit midfield, and then you kind of sit long distance, and I'm finding that the midfield sort of range works pretty well for this tank. It's fairly accurate with the cannon. It's fast loading, fast firing. It does a little bit of damage, not too much, but in tier 6 matches, yeah, it does very, very well. Tier 7s, it kind of struggles a bit, and tier 8s, forget it. It's just like a knife going through butter. So obviously you've got to gauge that in regards to what battle tier that you're in. If you're in a tier 6 battle, you can afford to be sort of mid-range fighting. If you're in a tier 7, tier 8 battle, I would say kind of sit a bit further back and try and make it to the second half of the match, and really just kind of gauge it from there, I suppose. Yeah, so it's an interesting tank, and it's got an interesting backstory, albeit it's not all true. But as I say, we've been on that, and you can make endless videos on all the different tanks, can't you? that either existed or didn't exist, or the stories that it's been sold as don't quite match up to reality. It's one of them things, isn't it? You just got to gauge it yourself, and if it upsets you, then don't play it, kind of deal. But it doesn't really bother me. But I find it quite interesting that when you read the backstory to things, and you think, oh God, was that really involved in that? Because I quite like, as I'm sure you do, I love anything to do with World War II. Hence the reason why I still play this game. I really enjoy it and really love it. And it's interesting when you go in to find the actual stories. And I've got reference books in regards to special forces raids during World War II, and I did do a couple of them before, but I don't know how well they went down with the viewership. But it makes really interesting reading from actual accounts from the people that were there and involved in the operations at the time. I just find stuff like that really fascinating. As I say, I did bring a couple of them stories to you. I'm not sure how they went down, whether they went down as well. Probably my narration skills weren't as good as they could have been. Not exactly Morgan Freeman, you know what I mean? But anyway, we're down to one tank left, which is the Tiger 131. He's got 3 kills, and it's kind of just a sit-and waiting game now to see whether he's going to pop out and see how much health he's got, because I don't know how much health he's got at the moment. By the looks of it, it looks like he's full health, but he's got 3 kills. So I'm kind of just sitting waiting, trying to gauge it. The clock is ticking down, so yeah, it's just a waiting game now. We've got all the time in the world, so it's just a case of sitting and waiting. So it's just me and the S35CA that are left on our team, and he is effectively capturing the flag, and I'm trying to give Overwatch at the moment, just in case, just on the off chance that this Tiger 131 is going to pop out and try and take a shot. At least there's 2 guns hopefully pointing at him if he does indeed do that. Is he going to pop out? That's the question. Or am I going to get bored and go looking for him? And I think actually at some point somebody mentions in the chat that they think that he's AFK. But he's got 3 kills, so I was kind of thinking, well, should I go, should I stay? Should I go or should I stay? That's a good song, that. I like that song. Anyway, I think curiosity gets the better of me. And I'm thinking, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, or in for a penny and in for $1 if you're from across the pond. And I go looking for him. But you'll just have to wait and see what happens. See how I tried to build the tension there? It's called filler. When there's not a lot going on, you got to try and fill that sort of little gap. Or in this case, that big gap. Because there's not a lot going on, but you got to keep your viewership focused on the game, or else they say, oh, stuff this is boring. And they disappear. So now I've decided, now curiosity has got the better of me. I'm going to go looking for him, and at the end of the day, if he does manage to reset the cap or take out the S35CA, then hopefully, you know, I'll still be close enough. One, he won't be able to cap, and two, I'll be close enough to get to him and try and get a shot into him. He may take me out and he may not, but you'll have to wait and see. Is that going to happen? Who knows? How do I know? I'm only just doing the narration over the video. What would I know? It's called filler as well. So I go looking for him and I'm thinking he's over here. But as it turns out, I couldn't find him and we end up capturing the flag and we end up winning the game. But so without further ado, I'll transport us to the ending of the game, which is just a few seconds away because he's about to capture the flag. We could have stayed and fought, I guess. I guess he could have come off. We've only had 2 minutes, so it would have taken 2 guns to take out a pretty much full health Tiger 131. So we wouldn't have... I just don't think we would have done it, even if we had have found him. But a win's a win, isn't it? That's what it is at the end of the day. A win's a win. And as long as you win the game, it's good. And you've survived, that's an absolute bonus. So anyway, on to the end plates of the game and let's see how we did. We made 54,000 credits and 10,373 XP. So all is good in the hood. Anyway, guys, have a wonderful evening, whatever you're up to, and I'll catch us all in the next one. Remember, hit that like and subscribe. Until the next one, take care. Bye-bye.